In a quiet suburban town where autumn leaves painted the sidewalks gold, there lived a small black kitten hiding beneath an abandoned wooden staircase behind an old grocery store. He was barely 8 weeks old, thin as a shadow, with fur so dark it almost blended into the night. His eyes, however, shone like two fragile stars, wide with fear, but still searching for kindness. People passed by him every day. Some noticed him, most didn't. A few children pointed and whispered, "Black cats are bad luck." The kitten didn't understand those words. He only understood hunger, cold, and loneliness. When the wind blew harder at night, he curled into the smallest ball possible, pressing his tiny body against the cracked concrete for warmth. Sometimes he would cry softly, but no one came. He had learned quickly that crying did not always bring comfort. One rainy evening, a woman named Clara was walking home from work. She volunteered occasionally at a local animal shelter, but that day she was exhausted. Her umbrella trembled against the heavy wind as she hurried past the grocery store. That's when she heard it, a faint, trembling meow. At first, she thought it was the wind playing tricks on her, but then it came again, softer this time. She stopped, followed the sound, and there, in the darkness beneath the staircase, she saw two glowing eyes staring back at her. The kitten didn't move. He had seen humans before. Some had thrown stones, others had shouted. He had learned to stay very still. Clara slowly knelt down, lowering herself to his level. "Hey there," she whispered gently. "It's okay." Her voice was different. Soft, steady. The kitten's ears twitched. Clara noticed how thin he was. His ribs were visible beneath his dark fur. One paw looked slightly injured. Rainwater dripped from his whiskers. Without thinking twice, she removed her scarf and gently reached toward him. He flinched at first, but he didn't run. And that small decision, that tiny moment of trust, changed both of their lives forever. Clara wrapped him carefully in her scarf and held him close to her chest. His body trembled against her heartbeat, but slowly, very slowly, he relaxed. For the first time in weeks, he felt warmth that wasn't coming from cracked concrete. She took him straight to the veterinary clinic. The diagnosis wasn't good. He was malnourished, slightly dehydrated, and had a minor infection in his paw. But the vet said something that made Clara's eyes fill with tears. "He's a fighter." Clara decided to name him Midnight. Not because he was dark, but because even the darkest night still holds stars. The first few days were difficult. Midnight hid under the couch, refusing to eat unless Clara left the room. Sudden movements made him freeze. Loud sounds sent him scrambling for safety. He had learned that the world was unpredictable. Clara was patient. She sat quietly on the floor each evening, reading softly out loud so he could grow used to her voice. She placed food a little closer to her each day. She'd never forced him to come out. Trust, she knew, cannot be rushed. Weeks passed. One night as Clara sat watching television, she felt something brush lightly against her ankle. She looked down. Midnight. He stood there uncertainly, tail low but eyes curious. Clara didn't move. She barely breathed. After a long pause, Midnight slowly pressed his tiny head against her foot. It was the smallest gesture, but it meant everything. From that night on, something shifted. Midnight began exploring the house more confidently. He discovered the warmth of sunbeams through the living room window. He found joy in chasing the reflection of light across the floor. He learned that hands could scratch gently behind his ears instead of pushing him away. And then, one quiet Sunday morning, Clara woke up to a soft vibration against her chest. Midnight had climbed onto her bed. He was purring. It was a deep, steady sound, not loud, but powerful. The sound of safety, the sound of healing. But not everyone saw him the way Clara did. When friends visited, some hesitated. "Oh, he's black," one said awkwardly. Another joked about superstition. Clara would simply smile and stroke Midnight's silky fur. "He's not bad luck," she would reply. "He's the luckiest thing that ever happened to me." Because Clara had been lonely, too. She had lost her father the year before. The house had felt empty, silent, heavy. Midnight changed that. He waited by the door when she came home from work. He sat beside her. When she cried, he followed her from room to room like a small shadow, determined to protect her. In saving him, she hadn't realized he would save her too. Months later, Clara decided to share Midnight's story online. She posted before and after photos from the frightened, fragile kitten under the staircase to the sleek, confident cat lounging proudly in sunlight. The post spread quickly. People were surprised. They commented about how beautiful he was, how elegant, how wrong they had been about black cats. One message stood out. A little girl wrote, "I always wanted a black cat, but my family said they're re-scary." Midnight looked kind. Clara smiled. Midnight wasn't he just healing in her home. He was changing minds. Years passed gently. Midnight grew stronger, his coat glossy like polished velvet. His once injured paw carried him gracefully across the house. The fear that once clouded his eyes had disappeared, replaced with calm wisdom. But sometimes, on stormy nights, he would still sit by the window and stare into the darkness, not in fear, but in memory, as if remembering the tiny kitten he once was. And Clara would sit beside him, gently placing her hand on his back. "You're safe," she would whisper. And he was. Midnight never became just a pet. He became proof that love can rewrite stories, proof that labels don't define worth, proof that even those the world misunderstands deserve a chance, because sometimes the ones no one wants are the ones who love the deepest. And sometimes the darkest fur holds the brightest heart.